She was known as the woman who never froze, the cold-faced CEO who handled billion-dollar deals without blinking. Yet in that crowded airport lounge, when a stranger gently tapped her shoulder and began signing fluently to her mute daughter, the powerful CEO felt her entire world stop. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more powerful your way. Amara Hale lived a life that never paused. As the youngest female CEO of a global tech company, she was constantly surrounded by deadlines, meetings, investors, and decisions that could shift entire markets. Her name carried weight, her posture carried confidence, and her silence carried authority. But the woman who led empires was also the mother of a quiet, gentle, mute 7-year-old girl named Liana. To the world, Amara was iron. To Liana, she was simply mom, a mother who tried her best but often felt she was failing in ways no resume could hide. That evening, they sat in Terminal 4 of an international airport, waiting for a delayed flight that was supposed to take them to a conference Amara couldn't avoid. Liana sat beside her with a small sketchbook, drawing little stars and circles, occasionally glancing up at her mother as if hoping she would notice. Amara glanced at her phone, checking an endless stream of notifications. Every vibration felt like a chain she couldn't break free from. She wanted to spend more time with Liana. She wanted to speak in her daughter's language, sign language, but she had only learned the basics. Work always stole her time. Guilt always followed. She sighed softly, brushing a hand across Liana's hair as the little girl leaned closer, scribbling something new in her notebook. Mom, Liana signed gently, tapping her wrist twice, the sign they had created together meaning I'm here. Amara's heart tugged. She signed back I know in her imperfect motion, and Liana smiled in that soft way that always made Amara wish she were someone better. But then a small accident broke the fragile quiet. Liana's colored pencils fell to the floor, rolling in different directions. Amara bent down to grab them, but another hand reached them first. She looked up sharply, expecting an apology, maybe a curious stare. People often stared when they saw Liana signing or staying silent. But instead, she found a man kneeling beside her daughter, returning each pencil with gentle precision. He was in his early 30s, wearing a casual blue jacket, hair slightly messy yet warm in its softness. A single dad himself, though she wouldn't know that yet. His expression was kind, not overly curious, not pitying, just understanding in a way that startled her. He didn't speak. Instead, he lifted his hands and began signing. Not simple signs, not basic conversation. He signed fluently, naturally, like someone who had lived in the language. Liana's eyes widened with joy, the kind of joy Amara rarely saw except when Liana was drawing or playing with stars. The girl let out a soft breath of surprise and immediately signed back, faster and brighter than Amara had ever seen. In seconds, her daughter, usually shy in public, was signing stories with her hands, smiling, laughing silently, glowing. Amara froze. Not because she was offended or afraid, but because she realized something painful. This stranger was speaking to her child in a way she never had the time to learn. Her throat tightened. She didn't know whether to thank him or fall apart. The man looked at Amara after a moment, offering a small smile that wasn't intrusive, just kind. Then he signed slowly to her. She's wonderful. Amara stared at him, completely disarmed. For the first time that day, the CEO's guard cracked. And for the first time in years, she felt like someone saw Liana, not as a girl who couldn't speak, but as a girl who spoke differently. And maybe, just maybe, someone was seeing her too. Amara didn't realize she had been staring until the man gently broke the silence by turning his attention back to Liana, whose face was glowing with excitement as her tiny hands moved in rapid motions. The airport around them hummed with the low thunder of delayed announcements and restless travelers, but somehow the space where the three of them stood felt like a quiet pocket in the world. Amara blinked, forcing herself to regain composure. She was the CEO known for unshakable confidence, yet here she was, humbled in the middle of an airport by a stranger who communicated with her daughter more beautifully than she ever had. She cleared her throat. You sign, she asked softly, though her voice carried the stiffness of someone unused to vulnerability. He smiled gently, standing up with the colored pencil still in his hand. Yeah, he said. My son is deaf. He motioned with his head toward a boy sitting a few seats away, a small 6-year-old wearing a red hoodie, swinging his legs and reading a picture book. I'm raising him alone, so sign language became our lifeline. The single dad, whose name she soon learned was Evan, handed the pencils to Liana, signing careful with a playful smile that made the little girl giggle silently. Amara's guardedness wavered. She felt both gratitude and something unsettling, admiration. She lowered herself to sit beside Evan, keeping Liana comfortably between them as the kids communicated with their hands in a flurry of childlike joy. "You're very good at it," she said, eyes briefly lowering. "I've been trying to learn, but work always gets in the way." The confession slipped out before she could catch it. Evan didn't judge. He didn't look surprised or disapproving. Instead, he nodded thoughtfully, as if he understood more than she was admitting. "Life gets in the way," he said softly. "But kids wait for us longer than we think. They just need to know we're trying." His words hit harder than he likely intended. Amara's gaze drifted to Liana, her daughter who expressed worlds through silence, who rarely connected with others, who always clung to her mother's sleeve when strangers approached. But now she was laughing, actually laughing, her silent giggles shaking her shoulders as Evan's son, Noah, showed her a silly sign for penguin. Something warm tightened in Amara's chest. "She trusts you," she whispered. Evan shook his head gently. "She trusts communication," he corrected. "Kids like ours, they can sense when someone meets them in their language. It makes them feel seen." Seen. The word felt like a mirror. How many times had she let work overshadow her daughter's world? How many times had she promised to learn more sign language but pushed it to the bottom of her to-do list? Her phone buzzed loudly in her bag, 3 new emails, 2 missed calls, 1 urgent notification. She didn't reach for it. For the first time in years, she didn't feel pulled by the invisible strings of corporate life. Instead, she felt anchored, to her daughter, to this moment, to a stranger who somehow understood the kind of parenthood she had never spoken about. "Can I ask," Evan said gently, watching her expression soften, "do you ever get time for yourself? Or for her?" Amara let out a shaky breath. "Not enough," she admitted. "Sometimes I feel like I'm failing her." Evan looked at her with a calmness she envied. "If you were failing her, she wouldn't look at you the way she does." Amara followed his gaze. Liana had paused her signing, looking up at her mother with eyes full of trust, full of love that didn't need words. "Kids don't measure time," Evan continued. "They measure presence." The sentence settled around her heart like a soft blanket. Presence. She had power, money, influence, but presence. That was something she had lost along the way. She felt her eyes sting unexpectedly. Evan noticed but didn't comment. Instead, he made a small offer, spoken with no agenda except kindness. "If you ever want help learning sign language, I could teach you." For a moment, the CEO who could negotiate contracts worth billions felt speechless. Not because she was incapable of speaking, but because someone had finally spoken to her humanity, not her title. And for the first time in a very long time, she wanted to say yes. Their flight was announced 20 minutes later, and the crowd around the terminal began to stir, gathering bags, finishing calls, and stretching limbs stiff from waiting. But Amara didn't move. She watched as Liana and Noah continued signing back and forth, their silent conversation filled with more emotion than spoken words ever achieved. Evan stood beside her, hands in his pockets, a patient presence who didn't seem to mind the passing of time. For someone who had spent most of her life racing clocks and chasing deadlines, the rare stillness felt new, strange, and precious. When the children finally paused, Liana tugged gently on Amara's sleeve. She signed slowly, carefully, as though wanting her mother to understand every motion. "He talks like me." Amara swallowed, her heart warming and breaking simultaneously. She knelt to Liana's height, brushing a curl from her daughter's forehead. "I know, sweetheart," she whispered, signing the same words with clumsy movements. Liana smiled softly, and Amara felt something inside her shift, a quiet vow forming before she even named it. She would learn. She would change. She would be better. When they all stood to gather their belongings, Evan reached for his son's hand. "Looks like we're on the same flight," he said with a gentle nod toward the gate number on both boarding passes. Something warm flickered in Amara's chest, comfort in the idea of not parting ways just yet. But fate had one more twist waiting. 2 attendants approached, asking for assistance regarding seat rearrangements. The flight had been overbooked, and certain passengers needed to be reorganized for safety distribution. When they checked the seating, Amara realized something surprising. She and Liana were assigned seats in different rows. A spike of panic shot through her. Liana had never flown without sitting beside her. The idea of her mute daughter being surrounded by strangers, unable to express discomfort or needs, made Amara's stomach twist. She can't sit alone, she said firmly, the executive edge in her voice returning out of sheer instinct. I need to be with her. The attendants apologized. There were no two seats together left. None. Evan looked between them, then at Noah, then at the seat map displayed on the screen. He didn't hesitate. Switch my seat, he told the attendant calmly. I'll take the one beside her daughter. She trusts me. I can help. Amara stared at him, stunned. This stranger, who owed her nothing, was offering to give up his comfort and sit beside her daughter during the entire flight, just so the child wouldn't feel alone. Are you sure? She whispered, her voice softer than she intended. Evan nodded. She'll be safe. And you'll be right behind us. Amara felt her throat tighten. Gratitude, real, raw gratitude, rose like a tide inside her. When they boarded the plane, Liana slid into the window seat, looking nervous until Evan sat beside her, greeting her with a playful sign that made her relax instantly. Noah sat beside Amara, and though he couldn't hear her, he smiled kindly when she buckled him in. During the flight, Amara watched as Evan helped Liana communicate with the flight attendant, helped her open her snack, signed gentle stories to distract her from turbulence, and made her feel safe in a world that often overwhelmed her. And somewhere high above the clouds, Amara made a promise, to herself, to her daughter, to the life she wanted to live. When they landed and walked out together, the sun rising across the horizon like a quiet new beginning, Evan turned to her. My offer still stands, he said warmly. The sign language lessons. Amara didn't hesitate this time. I'd like that, she said softly. For her, and for me. Liana squeezed her mother's hand, smiling as if she already knew this moment would matter forever. And in the unfolding quiet of the airport morning, a powerful CEO, a gentle little girl, and a single dad who spoke in kindness stepped into a new chapter none of them had expected, one where connection, not silence, became their shared language indeed.